you know what running into the kicker or personal fouls or intentional grounding are in the NFL? Because I don't, and it doesn't seem like the NFL knows. I'm Joe Tarosian, and live from the Ram Cave, this is RamView, the January 9th, 2023 edition. I'm Joe Tarosian, and it's brought to you by Temple City Auto Repair. If you're having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at Temple City Auto. So I'm doing a quick show. I like to think it's a quick show. I don't know if it's going to be a quick show, but I'm doing a quick show because I'm leaving to a place that I've been invited to speak up in the mountains. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be at 4,000 feet. I'm going to be in snow. And the best part of all is I don't have to drive. And so when you don't have to drive in that, you got to take that kind of a gig. So getting back to that Ram game, did that ridiculous running into the kicker call, the ridiculous call on Jalen Ramsey for smashing into Geno Smith after Geno Smith tried to smash into him, the taunting call, which doesn't normally bother me, but because of everything else that was going on, the taunting call by Quandre Diggs that wasn't called, and the intentional grounding when you're looking at Geno Smith, there's just things there that it's like, come on, this is ridiculous. They didn't cost us the game. We lost the game because we couldn't protect Baker enough. But don't ever let anyone, we started the season by talking about this. When people come on and they want to talk sports, there's always some jackwagon out there on one of the websites or some of the social media circles that snipes back at you and says, oh, like you know more than the professionals. Yes, you know more than the professionals when you watch the game we watched yesterday with the Rams. You know more. And the NFL has two things to do. Either get rid of the replay or use the replay. Because the problem is you open the box. And when you open the box on instant replay, that means now everything has to get called into question. I know it slows the game down, but look what it did to MLB baseball. First, it was just collisions at the plate, and then it was this, and then it was that. And now the what used to be called the end of vicinity call now, and players having to hang on to the bag, all those things that used to be givens are now reviewable, and it slows the game down. But how do you put everything back in the box once the box has been opened? And that's the thing with the NFL right now. They've opened the box, and you're seeing these egregious things that just need to be reviewed, and they're not. And it's preposterous. And I get really upset because I don't like people talking trash about Jalen Ramsey. Anyway, watching the NFL yesterday was a lot of fun. I watched it on delay because I had family come over. You know, I pastor a small church in Burbank. You're welcome to attend. You could check out our Burbank Faith Virtual here on YouTube. And so I was behind, 45 minutes behind. Family was visiting from out of town, Argentina. And I let people know, don't contact me. And someone's contacted me. My friend Rob, the Steeler fan, who is ready to go marching into glory because, you know, Mike Tomlin had another winning season. Then we went 9-8. Let's celebrate, right? I'll take the Detroit Lions 9-8 before I take the Steelers 9-8. Steelers haven't won a Super Bowl or been to a Super Bowl in 13 years. But, hey, they had a winning record. Good for them. All right. He lets the cat out of the bag and tells me who won the Sunday Night Football game when I'm in the third quarter. Needless to say, I got to do a reassessment of the friends in my life. But I kept watching the game because those games that the Rams played, the Lions and the Texans played, those games were fun to watch and catch glimpses of because you saw teams fighting and competing. Even the Denver Broncos against the Chargers yesterday, they were still playing. They were playing hard, and it was fun to watch. It was really fun to watch. Dan Campbell takes a lot of heat. You know, he's not cool enough, but you know, as everyone has said and everyone has noticed, and I'm not the first one, those Lions play hard, and they ran that. I think we would call it a swinging gate. I think that's what we called it back in the day. That swinging gate play with DeAndre Swift was beautiful. Just the gutsy calls, passing on 4th and inches to seal the game. Love those things. And again, they weren't playing for anything but a winning record, and the best of all, to ruin the season for the Packers, who ruined their seasons. And then, of course, the Washington Texans beat the Cowboys, which is always good as the Cowboys head into the postseason on a downer. And you don't see that kind of effort with teams that aren't going anywhere in the NBA. And by and large, you see that kind of effort with teams that are going places in the NBA. You don't see that during the stat grab portion of the MLB schedule, which is late August through September. I'll give the NHL guys a pass. I never played, never covered the sport. I come on board for NHL during the playoff season. But that was something special watching that yesterday, watching those guys play for nothing more. And that's what makes football important in America. I know, we got to get rid of masculinity. It's all toxic. We can't let boys be boys. We got to get rid of all that. And football is this island, this refuge where, we can actually play hard. We can actually hit. And that's why I'm always against things that soften the game emotionally, right? Football is a hard game. And life is hard and it mirrors life. And there's so many lessons that can be taught through football, not about getting a scholarship, but at the high school and the younger levels, football teaches you sacrifice. It teaches you to give up your desire for the team's desires. It teaches you to think of others. It teaches you how to push through when things are hard. That's why as a guy that played a little bit of quarterback, I got a little passion for the offensive lineman because nothing's harder than those guys that are constantly crashing pads during the course of a season and a game, and it's never easy. And they just got to dig deep and find strength to keep performing. It's beautiful. A guy like Jalen Ramsey was beautiful to watch yesterday. And so love the NFL. A couple of quick hits here before we start talking about the Rams a little more in depth. The Packers melted, right? Aaron Rodgers, there is that mystique building around Aaron Rodgers that he just doesn't win important games, right? He just does not win important games. And I know he had some drops yesterday. I know his rookies, those guys on that team, they did some brain dead things that should cost them their jobs or their salaries for next year, up to half their salaries because of all the money they cost the franchise. But the Packers melted. And I was watching the Lions, and I'm watching them play in the cold. And the first football game I ever saw was in 1969. I was 5 years old. I wasn't really paying too much attention. My brother was watching part of it, and it was the Vikings and the Lions. And they were playing at Tiger Stadium, and the fans were making so much noise, they had to tell everyone to be quiet. And the Vikings were in their purple pants and white shirt, and there was snow everywhere. And then you remember that old black and blue division of the NFC Central, which is now the NFC North. And I just couldn't help but think where Lions football would be if some 45 plus years ago, they had just built another outdoor stadium as opposed to going into the Silverdome, right? Where would they be if they had the advantage of the elements? Because we see that play out with the Vikings. The Vikings had such an advantage. They have not been to the Super Bowl since they went into the Metrodome and then eventually now their new stadium. Where would the Lions be? And they gave such an advantage to the Packers. And when the Packers finally righted that ship, that's why the Packers have been so dominant in the NFC North, and it used to be NFC Central. Same thing with the Bears, right? And so, Lions are easy to root for. Lions are real easy to root for. Brad Holmes, former Rams lead scout personnel, scouting director is their GM. He's done a fantastic job. And Dan Campbell, again, the bite him in the kneecap guy that everyone made fun of. He seems like a pretty cool dude to play for. And so good for them. Right now, if I could ask Brad Holmes, since the Rams got a couple of compensation picks for Brad Holmes signing to be the GM for the Lions, if maybe if Sean McVay steps down, he can ship us his OC and we can get together with another young offensive coordinator and see what the Rams could do the back half or the middle half of this decade if Sean McVay goes away. All right, so little commercial here. I am Joe Terosian. I am a pastor of a small church in Burbank, but I was a sports writer for 21 years, helped one of the founders of Mid-Valley Sports, which currently covers the NFL. You can find them at midvalleysports.com. I'm also a writer. I supplement my income by writing books. And you can find them. Type in Joe Terosian on Amazon or anywhere pretty much, and you can find my books, and you can support me that way. That'd be really great. My most recent book, The Pastor Who Couldn't Wait for Christmas, has been released. And it's doing pretty well. So I encourage you to go out there and buy a copy, as well as my football book, Tangent Dreams, which is a high school football novel. Okay, I think I got the commercial in. All right. The playoffs are set. Cool. Playoffs are set. And I'll break them down by each day. We got on Saturday, we got the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Chargers, the Jaguars. On Sunday, we got the Dolphins at the Bills, Giants at the Vikings, Ravens at the Bengals. On Monday, we got Cowboys at the Buccaneers. So we look at the Seahawks and 49ers, Frisco rolls. I just think Frisco rolls. I don't see. I think the Packers had a better shot of beating Frisco, but I just don't see the Seahawks winning that game in the Bay or in Santa Clara. Santa Clara is not the Bay. I spent time in Santa Clara, but you couldn't help but be happy for the Seahawks and Geno Smith, right? You just couldn't. I mean, as much as I'm a Ram fan, I've never hated the Seahawks. I was happy for Pete Carroll, and honestly, when the Wolves were circling when they traded Russell Wilson, and they made some poor decisions in requiring Jamal Adams and everything they did before, but they really righted the ship with a great draft. Tariq Woolen, I mean, some of these guys they drafted did a fantastic job, and the fact they got into the playoffs was amazing. And I think it's going to end against Frisco. I don't see anyone in the NFC stopping Frisco now. I thought the Packers could upset them, but we'll see. Frisco wins in that one on Saturday. Chargers at the Jaguars. The one thing you can count on is the Bolts are always going to bolt, right? And that's it. You know, one thing you can always count on with the Chargers is never count on the Chargers, right? And I don't know. That game was kind of weird with Denver yesterday. Did they want to play? Did they not want to play? Everything was secure. I think I might have yanked my guys because of their penchant to get hurt, and Mike Williams got hurt, and it just didn't look good. My two AFC teams that I'd like to see make a run are the Chargers and the Jaguars. So it'll be interesting to see how it comes out of there. I like the Jaguars, to tell you the truth. I think Doug Peterson's a better coach than Brandon Staley. And Trevor Lawrence is ascending. That defense is ascending. And so I'm going to go Jaguars in that one. On Sunday, Dolphins at Bills. Blowout. Okay, we're done. Giants and Vikings. If there's a chance for an upset this weekend for a road team, it really is, I think, the Giants at the Vikings. The G-Men could pull something. The Vikings are soft. The Vikings are not a tough team. They're not. There's nothing scary about the Vikings. Yeah, Justin Jefferson, but it's been proven that you can take Justin Jefferson out of the game plan, right? It's been proven you could rattle Kirk Cousins a little bit. I'm not saying the Giants are going, but if any team on the road could win this week, it is the Giants at the Vikings. Ravens and Bengals, even with Lamar, Joe's not going to lose. I'm not a Bengal fan, but even with Lamar hasn't played for over a month. He hasn't even worked out, from what I'm told, from what I'm seeing, from what I've heard, from what I've read. Ravens are in trouble, and really goes into the stat box as another late season, postseason washout for the Ravens in the Lamar Jackson era, right? It does. He came on late in 2018, played late. Chargers beat them in Baltimore, made the playoffs, was MVP in 2019, but they lost in Buffalo. I think it was in Buffalo. Or was that 2020? They lost. And then last year, right? So it's really interesting to see what's developing with Lamar. He should have took that contract. I wouldn't give him guaranteed money. And here's the thing. You don't want your organization held hostage. I would thank Lamar for his time. And I would say, bro, this is what we're offering. If you don't want it, it's okay. Why don't you just move on or work out a deal to move you? We'll move you to Miami, because he got hurt in the pocket. His body is catching up with him with the things he does. He's a great player, but his window is very short. So I like the Bengals in this. I think, on the other hand, the Bengals window is wide open right now, and they could, again, make a run. And then Monday night, the Cowboys are at the Buccaneers. Hate the Cowboys, right? So got to go with the Buccaneers. And it is a possibility, right? The Buccaneers haven't been good, but there is Tom Brady. They are at home. He has started to reconnect with some of his receivers, right? And Mike Evans, so to speak. And they're looking good. That loss yesterday doesn't really amount to much because Brady got benched. But, the Buccaneers could pull something. And the Cowboys, good team, but you have to ask yourself, do you trust Mike McCarthy? Do you trust Dak Prescott? That's it. Or do you trust Tom Brady at home? I don't know. I think I'm going to go Tom Brady at home, and I don't think it's going to be the upset that people will call it. I think the Cowboys, finished 12-5, Bucks 8-9. I don't think it'll be the upset people think will say it is, but it will upset the apple cart. And again, I can give a clearer path for the 49ers to the Super Bowl. Regarding the Rams, okay, loved watching that team play yesterday. It was hard because you know what they've been capable of. You see that makeshift offensive line doing their best. You see Baker Mayfield, who didn't look great, graded out poorly. But again, Baker Mayfield gave us a shot in different games. So I appreciate Baker Mayfield. But think about where the Rams were when the season started. You're running out there with Matthew Stafford, uh, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, even a Ben Skoranek who was filling in for a recovering Van Jefferson, right? And you had a healthy offensive line. You had a full complement of running backs. You had Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, and even Kyrene Williams was out. I take that back. Kyrene Williams is out. But that's what you ended with. That's what you started with. And you ended with Baker Mayfield, Van Jefferson as your number one receiver, Tutu Atwell, who was benched for 6 consecutive games, didn't play. Brandon Powell, who was a free agent kick return specialist a year ago. Austin Trammell, cast off by the Falcons. And then Matt Skura, right? Ty Niski, 7th round pick, AJ Akuri, Chandler Brewer, right? Coleman Shelton played center, and he was supposed to be the right guard. He actually had a pretty good game yesterday. And so no one would grade out well, and you couldn't expect Mayfield to really work magic all the time, right? It's not like you get to play the Raiders and Josh McDaniels every week that open doors for you, right? Cam Akers, of course, looked good. And, you just have to ask yourself, do you trust him? Kyrene Williams didn't get any touches yesterday. But there's a nice complementary feature there with Kyrene Williams and Cam Akers. It'd be nice to see them maybe add another back or see what they could develop. You want that third back, I think. Rob Havenstein finished the year very solid. Shelton looked good, like I said, at center. And Jefferson looked different, looked a little bit better as the number one. He had to be the number one, right? And I think because we've talked about this very early last year, Matthew Stafford is very Kupp-centric, and he was more Kupp-centric this year because when there's all that uncertainty on the offensive line, you know where your guy's going to be. And it took time for Allen Robinson to get going, and then by the time he got going, his season was over. So, yeah, what did you expect? I didn't expect too much yesterday, but I was overwhelmed by how hard they played, especially the defense. And watching that game yesterday, you love Bobby Wagner. What a great acquisition Bobby Wagner was. And he played so well that it gives you encouragement for next year, right? Because I don't think anyone expected this kind of year out of Bobby Wagner. And he was fantastic. And I will always love Jalen Ramsey, right? This is a dude that has his ring. He has his dough. He got his bag, so to speak. And he could have checked out, right? And I get the reasoning people are throwing out there to trade him, maybe to a contender that'll cough up something that needs a guy in the secondary to close the deal. But Ramsey, for a start, is a guy who can still play, right? And I just think he is so flexible because he's a great tackler. He's aggressive. He just needs a better scheme than the one we have right now to play in. And I really think the best place to move Jalen Ramsey is free safety, right? Move him to safety and let him be the Wolfman. Let him be the rover back. Let him be the guy that just creates, right? He's the honey badger with athleticism, right? He can do anything. And I'd love to see him have some freedom and see the defense crafted that allows him to have that freedom. Partner him with Russ Yeast or Quentin Lake. Both played well yesterday. Russ Yeast had a pulmonary concussion, I think they called it, and was rushed to the hospital. They say he's fine. But you saw a lot out of Russ Yeast. You saw a little bit out of Quentin Lake yesterday. You saw some missed tackles out of Quentin Lake. But they both played just as well as Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott have for the bulk of the season. Now, Rapp played better down the stretch, and yesterday may have been Taylor Rapp's best game. But are you going to give him a new contract? I don't think so. With salary cap situation, the Rams do have some wiggle room, and the cap's going to go up. But I don't know if Taylor Rapp is the guy you want to give a new contract to. So you drafted Russ Yeast, you got Quentin Lake, and you still have Jordan Fuller. So we'll see how that plays out. Michael Hecht. This is the other thing about Michael Hecht. He didn't grade out real well yesterday. But, he played 7 games, and he registered 5 sacks. I don't think Terrell Lewis and Justin Hollins came close to 3 sacks combined this year. And so whatever you were getting out of those guys, Michael Hecht doubled it. And he was changing positions. He's an undrafted free agent out of the Ivy League, played at Brown. And I think the team has found something in him. Do I think he's the long-term answer? I can't say that. But, I see more in him right now than I do in Leonard Floyd, right? And Leonard Floyd's going to be 31. And he didn't have a great year. He had an average year. Holds the line okay. He needs help. And that opposite edge rusher. He needs Aaron Donald in the lineup for him to be effective, but the Rams are fine. His contract to me is a bad contract, and we're going to see where the Rams go there. But Michael Hecht had a nice year. Marquise Copeland. The problem with Marquise Copeland, he plays well. He's only 287 pounds. Now, you put that in the 1980s Rams, that's awesome. 1990s Rams, okay. 2023, that is light up front. And but I'd like them to see what they can get with Marcus Copeland, keep working with him. And Bobby Brown, I think, is a guy they're going to develop. And I think Bobby Brown is the reason Ashawn Robinson or Greg Gaines is going. I think it's going to be Ashawn. But I think Bobby Brown, as long as he can lay off the PEDs, he's going to be that guy and given that opportunity. You have to love Kobe Durant. He was in there all those critical plays. Of course, he's not perfect, but nice pickup. He's a competitor. I like Darian Kendrick still too. I think the Rams could also draft another corner. They don't believe in Robert Rochelle anymore. And then move Jalen Ramsey to free safety, right? And then do something unique. One of the things that really bugs me, again, is when sports people, they don't do their homework and they're paid. That's all their job is, to do your homework and look at what the Rams have. Potentially the Rams have 9 draft picks next year. Oh, you don't have any draft picks. You got 9. There's not in the first round, but you potentially got 9 draft picks last year. And I'll go over that in a second. Also, the salary cap. The Rams salary cap is a little bit of an issue. Projected for 2023, they have a little bit of space, a little bit under 2 rocks, but the league ceiling is going to rise. And there's a belief that Aaron Donald can restructure. That's the way these contracts are crafted nowadays, so they can be restructured. Jalen Ramsey could be traded, but he won't be cut. There's no savings there. Stafford could likely be restructured. Ashawn Robinson is gone. Leonard Floyd, right? Leonard Floyd saves 3 rocks if he's cut. Okay, he's 31. You can save $3 million if you cut him, but it's 19 dead cap hit, and that's just too much. And so Leonard Floyd's going to be back. Say bye, I think, to Tyler Higbee and Troy Hill. They're gone, and there'll be cap savings there. Sean McVay going forward. Let's talk about Ram draft picks, and we'll see what the Rams have there in terms of draft picks. The Rams, in their current draft setup, right now, people are saying it's the 37th pick, 36th pick. I think it's the 36th pick because the Dolphins don't have a number 1. I don't know how that works out if the 33rd pick becomes the 32nd pick, and so I've seen the Rams listed at 37, and I've seen them listed at 36 overall. That's in the second round. So they are inside the top 40. It's the highest draft pick since the year they drafted Jared Goff. And they had the 69th pick overall in the 3rd round. On top of that, they have 160 in the 6th round. They have the 168th, the 175th, the 177th draft picks in the 6th round. And then they got 213 overall in the 7th. Now, that's what they have already. But because of compensatory picks, that's when they lose free agents, right? Samson Ebukam, right? Think of the people that have left over the years. Samson Ebukam, Austin Corbett, people that have moved on, Ogbo Ogoronko, other people that we have not given new contracts to. You get a compensatory pick for that. Darius Williams. You get a compensatory pick for Allen Robinson. Not Allen Robinson, Von Miller. Now, because the Rams signed Allen Robinson, they lose one of those compensatory picks, which would have been likely a 4th rounder, and that kind of cancels out Darius Williams. But as it stands right now, because of Joseph Sebastian Day, Von Miller, Austin Corbett, and Ogbo Okoronkwo, the Rams are in line. Some of that might change because of snaps played. Okoronkwo played enough. I don't know if Joe Sebastian Day did. But the Rams has compensatory picks, have 2 5th rounders, another 6th, and another 7th. So that would give them 4 picks in the 6th round, 2 in the 7th. That would give them a 2nd rounder, a 3rd rounder, and a 5th rounder. That's 9 draft picks. With some contracts kind of coming off the books, and you don't have to pay the amount that you were paying to some guys before, and the escalating salary cap of the NFL. The Rams situation is not dire, but when you hear Petros or these other people locally talk, it's the end of the world, and it really just bugs the snot out of me. It'll be interesting to see. Also, if someone like Baker Mayfield signs with another team, the Rams will get a compensatory pick in 2024. So that's a good deal too, right? It's if any of our safeties, right? If Nick Scott or Taylor Rapp sign with another team, the Rams get a compensatory pick for them. The Baker Mayfield deal just looks better all the way around in the sense that if he stays, he's going to stay for less money. They're not going to give him big money. If he stays, he's the perfect backup and possibly a bridge in a year or two when Stafford steps down. Or he just walks and the Rams get a draft pick for him. So it was a good deal and he played well. And so we should appreciate Baker Mayfield's time here in LA, right? And so getting to Sean McVay, I know this is not going to be popular, but regarding Sean McVay, I wish he'd just retire. I really, as I said earlier, in regards to Lamar Jackson and others, I don't like being held hostage by an employee, right? I won't be held hostage by somebody that works underneath me, whether at church or at my camps or even at Old Mid Valley News, Mid Valley Sports. If you're hassling or you're just like unsure, it's like I'm going to give you the least responsibility that I can give you. I'm still going to love you, care about you, but I'm not going to give you anything important. And in fact, I'm going to encourage you to move on. And Sean McVay, great. I love Sean McVay. I don't want Sean McVay to retire, but I just don't like this hemming and hawing. I just don't. There's people depending on you. Make a decision. And if you want to step away, just step away. Same thing with Aaron Donald. Just step away. Matthew Stafford, I'm thinking I don't want him to go, but for his health, I'd kind of like him maybe to step away. And I know that creates the rebuild, right? I think if Sean McVay moves on, Aaron Donald retires, then it's more likely that, okay, let's move Jalen Ramsey and let's reset this thing. But as it is, I don't like being held hostage. And so love Sean McVay, appreciate Sean McVay. Greatest coach in Los Angeles Rams history. Yeah, even better than Chuck Knox. I think the record proves it. Even better than George Allen. But better than Hamp Poole. But who do they replace him with? I've seen way too much talk about Raheem Morris. No, please, not Raheem Morris. I don't want Raheem Morris. Please, Denver has asked permission to speak to him. I think he would be a perfect hire in Denver. Please go to Denver, right? Go to Denver, be reunited with some, I'm getting too excited, be reunited with some former coaches, and the Rams get compensation picks for Raheem Morris. And it's likely window dressing because it's a bummer. I think the Rooney Rule is a joke where you have to interview minorities because what you're seeing is these teams, they know who they're going to hire. And honestly, if I'm going to hire somebody, no one's telling me who I'm going to hire. And so, but you're required to do this window dressing. And you don't hire the person you want. You before you hire the person you want, you got to bring in somebody in window dress, right? And I think Raheem Morris might just be window dressing, right? But he seems like a good dude. Maybe the head job would be better for him than a DC job. And good. I hope Denver hires him. Please hire him. Go. God bless you. Godspeed. Eric Bieniemy's name came up, and my only thing about Eric Bieniemy is that, yeah, on paper it looks good, but I want to know why, and no one's made the commitment to him before. He's got kind of a caustic personality a little bit, and as the years go on, he's just not getting hired, and I don't think it's because of race. I just think there's something there, right? D'Amico Ryans, the 49ers DC, is a candidate. He's young. He's a defensive coordinator, and that's my problem. I don't want a defensive guy, right? I don't want a defensive guy, but he's going to be a hot ticket. Byron Leftwich, they believe, because everything's going to blow up probably in Tampa Bay. A lot of free agents. Brady's probably going to move on. Byron Leftwich is a guy. I don't know if I'd be against that. But Sean Payton, yeah, I think I would take Sean Payton because he would know how to run the ship. And I think that's what you want. And he had a lot of success in New Orleans. And so, yeah, I'd be very, very interested in Sean Payton. But the guy I'd kind of like to put my finger on is Ben Johnson, not the sprinter, but maybe the OC from the Lions is the good fit. He did wonders with Jared Goff, and it would be a nice trade, right? Let's keep that Ram-Lion relationship going, right? They give us Matthew Stafford. We give them 2 draft picks in Jared Goff. They go 9-8, and now they got a number 6 overall pick because of the Rams. So now they can reciprocate and allow us to take Ben Johnson off their hands if Sean McVay retires. And so I'd love to see that. That would be kind of interesting. I'm not interested in hiring a defensive guy. I think as long as the Rams are playing, I think you really, this current edition, you need an offensive guy that can create and be creative. And you got to just say there's been nothing like Sean McVay for Ram fans ever. And so cool. But if he does stay, we knew a new philosophy on defense, and those are some hard calls. Oh man, we went 30 minutes. Okay, I'm Joe Terosian. Thank you so much for clicking on. Please like us on Spotify, follow us on Spotify. Slowly, tiny ticking up on Spotify. And if you can, leave a like, leave a comment. I love talking sports. God bless. Take care. And yeah, I'm going to keep doing Ram talk during the off season. That's when it's the most fun sometimes because you're not as depressed about games. Okay, I'm Joe Terosian. This has been RamView. God bless. See you soon.